Hey everybody, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with Sketchy Andy Lewis. Friends call him Sketchy. That's kind of sketchy that friends call you that, well, we're going to find out a little bit more about Andy and what he's up to in the Moab area for things to do. I fortunately spent the last weekend having an incredible experience with some base jumping, and as you know, I also went rope swinging and went all adrenaline. We did some canyoneering. With a nice finishing off the day with, I think we had about a 200 plus rappel. And I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk about the fiddlestick today, but it was pretty eye-opening. And aside from, I would describe an experience with you, Andy, as scenic and a touch of adrenaline. So and so much more. And so I'd like to do today is just talk to the audience a little bit about the subject of, I think the subject today should be fear, facing your fears. And what is that really? Because when we got after things the other day, I would say it was a split second of popping right through you. When they talk about going through your fear, it was a split second of fear and then on to the juicy stuff. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about, your background and how you got into this type of work. Because you do in Moab, if I'm correct, you're a kind of an extraordinary. You do a wide spectrum of activities for folks. So people come to Moab and they look up a search of, things to do in Moab. There's base jumping with Andy. You also do rock climbing, canyoneering, four-wheeling, slacklining. Am I missing anything? Is there anything else there?
I'll do whatever. I have a
You
very
will.
background.
Yes. Yeah. Well, someone like yourself, like how did you end up getting into these types of activities? We talked a little bit about how you being kind of an athlete and, growing up. But there must have been, there's some innate qualities in you, and then also a few switches and a few things you bumped into along your journey that opened up some clear directions to lean into.
Yeah, I grew up in Marin County, so it was
Okay.
kind of an affluent society. My dad and mom got us into a low-income housing kind of condominium. So we won this house lottery and were able to move into kind of the richer like neighborhood. And so I grew up in good schools, and there was always kind of like interactive sport things inside the school system. So soccer and basketball and baseball and track and field. And I really enjoyed all those sports. I just also kind of enjoyed like the culture of like skateboarding and BMX and mountain biking and rollerblading. And those things were kind of what drew my attention more. And it wasn't until about high school where I got into rock climbing, end of high school. So I was really into surfing as well. So I really liked being outdoors and experiencing nature. And rock climbing just helped me access more of nature. So rock climbing turned into tree climbing and slacklining, and then that turned into parachuting. And all of it together kind of lines up a bunch of different recreational activities where you could experience the outdoors in new ways. But it also doesn't just let you experience it, it kind of drives you to go out and do those things where you wouldn't be inspired to go and do certain things without the skills of access. And so that's why it felt scenic with you, was because I take people into kind of situations that they're not used to. So it's outside their comfort zone. And so when people get outside their comfort zone, that's when they feel like they're being sketchy or dangerous. And that's kind of why I get my name Sketchy, is because I'm constantly pushing myself to go and push past the comfort zone, past things that are deemed impossible, kind of in the face of resistance, in the face of laws, in the face of rules. It's kind of that nothing can stop you vibe. And so
Which I
that
felt when
gets
we
you
were
in
doing
trouble
activities,
sometimes.
when we did our canyoneering activities, we were constant different kinds of challenges, and I felt extremely safe. And what my experience is, when you're with a really great guide, you can kind of forego your limits and trust and lean into the guide who's like your coach, their confidence and their competency, because you're not taking me out at your edge. You're like, this is my zone of genius. You can do it with your eyes closed, so to speak. And did you always have like that confidence in your body awareness, I guess, and your desire to kind of do more individual type of sports, even because it's like you're in kind of a subcult in these.
Yeah, it was kind of a transition, I would say. So my dad liked me to basically finish whatever I started, and my mom was very supportive of me in sports. And together, my mom and dad always went to my sporting events. And the thing that kind of made me a little bit wary of sports was the fact that a lot of your teammates didn't try as hard as you. So sometimes you'd lose a game and it wasn't necessarily your fault, but your teammates who weren't as into winning as you in training and the idea of it were the ones who kind of let down this like vibe of winning, of like earning it and doing it. So I found that in single sports, you don't really have a team that you need to trust in. You can trust in yourself and you can push yourself to the limits that you want, and you're only held back by the limits that you see as kind of impassable or that you don't want to sacrifice for. And that's kind of where I pushed myself too. But in my childhood, I was also put into Boy Scouts. So I'm an Eagle Scout and in Order of the Arrow, and went to leadership camps. And leading and being a leader, you kind of, you always have to take responsibility for the things that go wrong, and then for the things that go right, you always declare the responsibility being somebody else. So you never really get given the recognition for success, and you always take the responsibility of failure. And that's kind of where it gets a little hard. But in terms of with you and the challenges, it's like you're capable of doing all the challenges that I wanted you to do in the canyons where you're stemming or down climbing. It's just that from your eyes, you don't see the world I see, but having the ability to help you see what I see, then things that you didn't know were possible become possible.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
kept
what
on
I
happening
do.
on reoccurring throughout the day, that transference of that wisdom.
Exactly. And so like if you go and teach, if you go and get a guidebook to open up and climb a rock somewhere, you have to figure
Good
out
luck.
which rock it is. You have to read where the hike is. You have to read where the parking lot is. You have to go to the rock. You have to figure out every move. But if you
An
take some,
enormous production. Yeah.
yeah, so if you take somebody who takes you to the parking lot, takes you on the hike, brings you to the boulder, shows you all the moves, you can actually climb and explore at a higher level because you're being gifted a lot of the information that you don't have to like sort through.
Yeah,
And
and
so
someone like
that's
yourself in
what
Moab that's so familiar with the terrain. I mean, you took us to places that are very off, you would not know from the parking lot that this spot was there. We were like where we jumped, it was
yeah, and that's not only just for you guys, it's for locals too. So like there's a lot of people who live here who don't understand the exploration or the kind of the expertise that we have. And it takes a lot of like this like fire burning deep within you that where you want to go out explore, you want to sacrifice the time. And they say if you can't, like, if you don't have 20 minutes for meditation, you should probably dedicate an hour to it. And
right.
so
Okay.
and so dedicating time and getting out there and having fun is the point. So trying to give you those challenges was not only just to teach you the skills for the next challenge, but also to get you to immerse in kind of like Mother Nature and to play with the unique landscape. And that's actually fun. And by having fun out there, that's where you get connected, like Avatar. You get
Yeah.
connected to the environment.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that connection to because what you do has a science and is an art form, of course. And if we look at like your early years in your career, maybe we could, this is an opportunity to be a little braggadocious and talk a little bit about some of your very focused winning accolades, and then where you are at now in relationship with that, and where you're kind of getting a sense of where you're going, because you've done some really extraordinary things that didn't require a team in some ways, a support team, but you had to be very driven. We were talking the other day just about how, and you had done the halftime show with Madonna, how it's just what was most impressive that you brought to attention was just her work ethic. Was just extraordinary. We all, I'm a business owner, and we tend to have we're like, gosh, my work ethic is tenfold compared to a lot of folks. Being a business owner, like we got to take all the things that we do wrong and compete with yesterday's version of things. And but it was very eye-opening for you being up close and personal with someone and seeing, like whether it was Michael Jackson, just like someone who has a standard, and it raises everybody else up, raises the bar. But you've done some things like maybe sharing a little bit about some of the slacklining and some of the competition, some of the creative venues that you've been able to participate in, as well as some of the daredevil stuff that you do that someone might say it's sketchy, but for you, it's like, hey, look, I thought this thing through before I did it. I put
Yeah.
a few of the puzzle pieces, it's not like I just went out and did something silly. It's like there's a lot of thought goes into something and a lot of practice goes into something before you do something that someone else would say is impossible. You question, well, what if?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it comes down to the 7 Ps that everybody knows, which is proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. And so by winning at slackline competitions, I was a back-to-back international world champion, got gold medals, did a lot of world records, longest free solo high line, longest walked high line in general, highest high line in between two hot air balloons. And all of these are records, and there's this day of excellence. But the thing is that excellence itself isn't just something that happens in a day. Excellence is actually a reflection of daily habit. So
Right.
excellence is actually what happens when you have the habit of training, the habit of slacklining every day, the habit of like, it wasn't the world record free solo that was important. It was the fact that I free soloed once every 3 days for 3 years to get to the record. So it's not excellence at that day. It's the habit of excellence that creates that day.
And so like most people, so where you're habituating that in, most people don't realize like you already have your bad habits got habituated in. So your poor habits, everyone has habits. It's just, are they the ones yielding an extraordinary result or achievements in your life? What are they, you're at some point or another, your habits are going to compound and reflect, have you been flossing your teeth? Have you been applying sunscreen or whatever?
Exactly. And that's the hard part, is that good habits, they are hard in the moment, but they're better in the future. Bad habits are kind of easy in the moment, but they're worse in the future. So I don't know if you've read the book Atomic Habits, but the idea is like, yeah, so like if you go to the gym for a day, you're going to go there, you're not going to be very strong. Your muscles are going to hurt. You're going to be like, wow, I thought I was stronger than that. And you're not going to see any change in your body. Whereas you could eat a donut, and that doesn't take any challenge, and it's delicious and crispy and sweet, and you don't see a change either in your body in one day. But you eat donuts for 30 days and you're going to see a change in your body. You go to the gym for 30 days and you're going to see a change in your body. But one takes work, one takes effort, and one is just like the good parts without the challenge. And
now,
so
can we relate that to the concept of fear then? Because like it's what I'm hearing is repetitions. Kind of, we've all heard that repetition's the mother of all success. Well, I had a fear of heights, and so when in some of my first big rock climbing attempts, the issue was I was holding on to a certain amount of like, kind of like, this is good enough. This is a little risky to get all the way out here. And so I wasn't trusting the gear and the equipment. And so the real lesson I got.
The question really is are you actually afraid of heights? And the answer is no, you're not afraid of heights. You're actually afraid of the consequence of falling. So heights aren't what you're afraid of. You're afraid of falling to your death or getting hurt from those things. And so fear will always be there. And so the relationship with fear is that it is dynamic. It's like this. So for the base jump, you might be afraid of the base jump when you get to the edge in that second where you're like, wow, that second of fear right before you jump. There's also that anxiety. You wake up in the middle of the night the day before and you're afraid in your bed thinking about the base jump. And so that anxiety building up to the jump can also be considered fear. So like if you don't care to base jump or it's not part of your challenge, you're actually not going to feel anxious or fearful. You're going to feel apathetic. You're not going to feel anything at all. And so the thing is that if you get really good at base jumping and you feel a control, which actually is like relaxation, you're also not going to feel that stimulation. So you won't be stimulated by base jumping as much either. So there's this aspect where you want your skill level and your challenge level to meet, and where your challenge level and your skill level meet, that's where flow state is. And so if you're over your head and the challenge is too high, that's where fear really comes in, is because you don't have the skills, you're over your head, and it makes you anxious about what if, this, that, and the next thing. If the challenge is under your skill range, you can actually go all the way back to apathy, where it's so easy you're not even challenged. And so you're not going to be experiencing the battle with fear. But it's not about being afraid or not afraid. It's about the fact that you can be afraid and brave at the same time. So it's about holding the tension of those two options. That actually is where
there was definitely that sweet spot for us when we were up at the edge there. I think we had a tutorial of about 30 seconds to 2 minutes of like, and I was just worried about getting the math right of like counting down 3, 2, 1 before we jumped. And then there's like, oh, I forgot about the drone that was going to come up and video us right then.
Yeah.
Right when the drone came up, and then your buddy did a backflip or whatever, right when we went off, he did his little spin. And but I can consider, like, if we had the whole day that day and I was like, hey, we're going to do another one and then another one and another one, all of a sudden it would be like, oh, I can start to really fully just relax into and drop into.
Yeah, but those 15 seconds of being clipped into me, getting to the cliff, and then counting down came from 15 years of developing skills and practice and
Yeah.
patience to actually present you that like
Home.
moment.
Yeah.
And so the biggest word we use from my friend Chris McDougall, who taught me this, is prevention. So by the time you're counting down, I've double checked the parachute, I've double checked the container, I've practiced with you enough for you to have the idea of what you're doing, but not be overwhelmed by too much information. And
Right.
so all of that goes into the pack job. So you open on time. And so like all of these risks like have been thought about and practiced against and prevented. So by the time we're jumping, we're taking some risks, absolutely, but the amount of time and effort and intention put into prevention is why I keep doing it, is because I believe in proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. And for over 1,000 different base jumps that we've done with my company, we've had 0 accidents, 0 incidents, 0 injuries, 0 deaths, and only fun and smiles. Also some tears. People do cry a lot too, but then they always love it at the end.
Yeah, and I have to say it was an incredible experience, and yeah, being able to, I felt that, you know, without you even saying that, it was already, and I hadn't done the heavy background research, but it was just, we just walked right into it and got down to business. I could lean into the energy of, I knew I was safe with you, so, and I just had to deal with my shit.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what I present to like my customers, is that every customer, that's why I have those little gifts and that little like kind of spiel at the top that I had with you before we jump, which you can keep secret for the people, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
usually do that for everyone to let them know that the base jump itself is kind of irrelevant to how they're going to take the experience into their life. So it's kind of like if you get a group of 100 people and you have a moment of silence and you burn an effigy in a fire and everyone watches the same fire burn.
yeah,
Every single person in that entire circle is going to take something different away from that moment, even though they're all watching the same moment. And that's kind of like everyone else is burning away different traumas or
mhm,
accepting a new loving the unknown, or whatever that fire or that moment meant to them is personalized. And
yeah,
that's why the base jump is awesome, because the base jump is pretty much the same every time. We go to the same places, use the same pack job, have the same gear, make the same jokes, but everybody takes that and then uses it for their own life in such unique ways. And that's what I have to offer for the people who are coming out with you, is to understand that the experience, though it is the same for everyone, it is philosophically
yeah.
embraced differently.
All right. What are some of the reasons people think they're coming there for, typically, that are coming to someone like yourself that's going to like put together this safe container for them to go and create that, you know, that as I told you, I said, I'm still in the process of what's to be revealed for me from the experience, you know, what I'm
Yeah.
embodying and encapsulating. But
I would say there's two
broad.
basic main reasons people come here. And the first reason and foremost reason is people are embracing life. They're embracing joy. They're embracing adventure and exploration. And the other side entirely is that people are embracing grief. They're trying to let something go. They had their dad die or their dog die, or they had a relationship of 16 years end. So it's literally the two opposites of life. People come here for grief and people come here for glory. And both of those are pretty much the two reasons why people come here.
Yeah. And what have you experienced for like, I'm assuming you've had some folks that have been reoccurring that have come back for a different kind of adventure, a different kind of experience. Because I always love, as a coach of, you know, 3 decades, it's I'm very blessed compared to other types of professions where you work with somebody and then they disappear. You never know that story of transformation. What are some of the things you get to experience from some of the folks that are like, hey, it's been a while, ready
Yeah.
for something, you know, ready for something crazier.
Well, I've had people come out and they've changed their lives. They've quit their jobs. I've had people who had chronic illness and had not been in a relationship for years, and they come back and now they're healthy and they're in a relationship where they've fixed their relationships and now get to see their daughter. I've had people come back just to share the experience of the people closest to them, where they bring their dad or their family or their friends, and they come back just to share the experience. And so seeing people's personal growth is amazing. But again, it's not the base jump, it's the theory behind the fundamental and foundational aspect of it, that you don't run away from things in your life.
Right.
You are here to face whatever it is you need to face, and it is up to you to face it. And that kind of builds the same mindset where you didn't ask for an easy life. You will take what comes, and if it leaves, you will let it go. And that's like the foundation behind what we do here with Base Jump Moab,
Yeah.
is to let people know that facing your fears is not a one-time thing. It's not like you face them and it's over. It's like, just like learning how to slackline, doing the free solos, breaking the records. It's that habitual nature that creates excellence. And practice insinuates repetition. So if you practice facing your fears, then that makes it so that you are more apt of understanding your emotional reactions to fears that come out in a physical representation. And you can actually control how your physical body reacts emotionally to fear through practice. And that's what we do, is we teach people not just to go through fear, but how to practice going through fear.
Yeah, and that whole weekend for me, the lesson for me was, and it's funny going into the weekend was I was starting off, Friday morning we're gonna base jump. Saturday morning I'm gonna do the rope swing and do that jump, and then it's like then I'm gonna rappel. I think on Saturday afternoon with you doing the canyoneering. And the lesson that I taken away, it's always been about, climbing mountains. You only get a moment of glory at the top. You get to sit at the big boy table, and then it's back down and pick your next mountain to climb. And it's the same thing with jumping. You need to be like, this is a rhythm. This is a routine. Like where you not taking jumps in your life. And it's
Well,
very,
sometimes the thing is you don't get to pick the mountain you're going to climb.
yeah,
Sometimes you get a brain tumor
yeah,
and you didn't pick that mountain, but
yeah,
your practice of how you deal with fear, how you make decisions, how you like analytically and pragmatically go through challenges, you can climb that mountain, even though you didn't choose to climb it.
right.
And
They're
so
coming
you went
anyways.
base jumping, and then you went rope swinging, and then you went canyoneering. It's not like you were done with fear. It's not like all of a sudden you weren't afraid to rope swing. It's like, no, you got there. You were like, I'm afraid. I'm going to go through this again. You practice. You get to the rappel. You're like,
Yeah.
I might be afraid. You're like,
Yeah.
I feel like I might pee myself, but I'm doing it anyway. But you're all those things. Fear's never gone. You just learn how to endure fear, and that's why being in Moab and experiencing the nature and going out and challenging myself is so good, because it helps me deal with fear in every other part of my life.
Well, what a beautiful thing that you get to hang out in this space with people and help them relax into and really not just explain but demonstrate what flow state is and the possibility, and that people can get out of the mode of letting their fears control them and get a little closer to really being a steward like yourself in their lives and for others. And so I think that, the impact is a ripple effect when people get in contact with you and what you share. I think it's an opportunity for others to go, hey, I can go back to my life here. I went to this adventure land, and now I get to go back to my life and create more adventure and create better impact in the world where maybe they've been walking a little bit foolishly and unaware. So I
Got to
appreciate
remember that the fool is only one step before the sage. So you got to be the fool
that.
sometimes.
It's a, it's a high wire act, right? You're like,
Yeah,
you're going to go really well today, or,
yeah, that's how it goes.
yeah. Hey, thank you, Andy, for your time today.
Thank you,
Everybody,
Glenn.
if they want to get a hold of you, what's the best contact information to locate you and make something happen? I know your calendar fills up very fast because you're in high demand, but how would they get a hold of you, and how would they even do a little bit of research on you? Just
Basically, you can go to basejumpmoab.com, and that's pretty much it. My number's right on the front page. If you want to search me, you can search Sketchy Andy online. Just be aware, I've been quite a character over the years.
right.
Just careful what you wish for when you search for some crazy stuff. It will make your palms sweat. There are some accidents that are hard to watch, but to this day, never broken a bone, never had stitches, never been rescued. So it's got a pretty good run going. But
Yeah.
for Base Jump Moab, just know that we do a lot of different tours. We do canyoneering, we do rock climbing, we do rappelling, hiking, tell a lot of jokes, tandem base jumps. We can schedule your party size for 1 to 15. Or if you guys come out with different kind of community events or corporate retreats, we can meet all the requirements you need.
Yeah. Well, for the 1% podcast and for the Coachable Coach, I give 2 thumbs up. Highly recommend. Reach out, have a conversation with Andy. Quite a historian of Moab too. So, and being a Marin County brat myself, this is the real deal. It's worth have a conversation. Just have a conversation. All
Heck
right.
yeah.
And
Rock on,
say
Glenn,
bye.
and we will see you out here.
Yeah, and I'll say
Ciao.
bye to the audience here. We'll see you guys later.
See you soon.